Hold on, hold on, hold on!
Greetings and salutations, guys. Eric here with my review of Twisters, the 28 years in the making legacy sequel, sorta, kinda, to the 1996 huge hit, Twister. I said kinda, sorta, because this is really not a legacy sequel in the standard way. It's very standalone. I guess it's set in the same universe. There is a small reference, a small bit of connective tissue to tell you that, oh, there's some technology here that is a holdover from what we saw in the original Twister, but otherwise it can really exist on its own. Daisy Edgar Jones stars here as Kate, who is a young storm chaser who has tragedy strike, loses people she cares about, and stops being a storm chaser. We pick up 5 years later, and she is sort of brought back into the game by Javi, her old friend, played by Anthony Ramos, who brings her out back to Oklahoma from New York, hoping that she can help him test out this technology that was based on things she was developing that can perhaps stop a tornado, that can dissipate a tornado in its tracks and save people. So she reluctantly goes out there with him, and in the midst of this, she meets Glenn Powell's character, Tyler, a very amusing character because he's the bad boy of storm chasing, and he drives around in this big pickup truck, blasting music, blasting his own soundtrack, because he is filming content. He is a famous YouTuber who likes to drive into danger, into these storms with his crew and kind of show off, showboat, and seems to be in it for the kicks. And so they have an adversarial relationship, but perhaps some sparks as well. And they're going to have to deal with some tornadoes along the way. Maybe more than one, as the title suggests. Twisters is a case of a sequel that is really a remake, or maybe a remix, if you want to call it that, because it's basically kind of repeating things that we saw in the first movie in a different way. And a lot of that seems to be kind of just flipping things around. So in the original movie, Helen Hunt's character was a little girl who lost someone she loved, and that made her become a storm chaser. And here, Kate is a storm chaser who loses people she loves, and that makes her quit storm chasing. The original movie, kind of a very funny, infamous part of it is the Cary Elwes character, and he's the corporate-sponsored storm chaser who's in it for the money, not the science. The fun little flip they do here is that Kate and Javi are the corporate-sponsored, slick storm chasers. Unlike in the original movie where Cary Elwes' character was kind of kept afar, he was only the antagonist, we never really spent time with him. Here we are embedded with the corporate-sponsored storm chasers, and we've got Glenn Powell's character kind of representing the rough and tumble group that evokes Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton's characters and their whole big team in that first movie. Here's what I have to reveal. I'm not a huge fan of the original Twister, and I know it has a lot of fans and people who sort of grew up loving it. I always felt it was a disappointing movie, amazing ad campaign, amazing trailer, but the movie itself never really grabbed me. It had some cool visuals for sure, and a great cast, especially when you look back on them now. But the movie, I didn't think really ever came together. So to me, Twisters didn't have that high a bar to get above to sort of reach that or maybe even pass it. And it does. I like this movie a little more than the original. I don't love either of them, but this is a perfectly enjoyable summer popcorn film. And, there's something to be said of, obviously, for sort of sitting back with a empty calorie, fun summertime movie. And I think this does deliver on that level. It is a disaster movie, of course. It's a spectacle movie. The effects are really strong. There's some really sort of cool standout moments as far as what we see happen with these tornadoes. There's a great sequence involving fire and that getting swept up into the tornado. Yes, there's a fire-nado. And there's, scenes where we got tornadoes hitting a rodeo and a motel and sort of a street fair farmer's market deal going on. And there's definitely some moments that, got me good as far as like jump scares in a tornado movie, because they can always have things fly at you suddenly or characters be grabbed by the tornado. And I think it's very effective on that level. I don't think it has sort of a standout, oh my God, super memorable sequence. I mentioned a bunch that I liked, but I don't think there's anything that's like, oh wow, this really raises the bar. This is next level for these kind of disaster movies. And I wish it did. I wish it had something that kind of really upped the ante. Instead, it's all cool stuff. It's all fun stuff. I mean, disaster movies are interesting. We go to them to watch things we would never want to actually experience in a movie. And I think that this one it gets the job done. So, this is sort of a mild recommendation I have here for this movie because I, had a pretty good time watching it. At the same time, I was like, yeah, these characters are pretty surface level. I mean, with Kate, they're trying to give her sort of this PTSD background because she did go through something very traumatic 5 years earlier. And it's fine. It's fine. But it all feels, kind of cursory. I do think that Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell have great chemistry. They are two very likable, attractive people. They work well together. But I can't help think about how Glenn Powell had such a wonderful role in Hitman that he wrote for himself. And this one is just sort of, it's all his charm. It's all the charisma and charm he brings to it. It is fun that he gets to kind of play this character so filled with bravado, who, has t-shirts of himself and really kind of loves the legend he's built up around him. But it's all just kind of like, this is the basics we get of the characters. It's not going to be that deep. There's a couple little silly moments, but nothing too egregious for something in this sort of genre, this type of movie. Notable amongst the cast, by the way, are some very sort of up-and-coming people of the moment. Katie O'Brien, who was one of the leads and gave such an excellent performance in Love Lies Bleeding earlier this year, a movie I've named as one of my favorites so far this year. And then David Cornsweet, who is our future Superman, who's filming that movie right now for James Gunn. What is funny is they're both in this movie a lot. They just don't have that much to do. They're just part of the team and kind of along for the ride. Cornsweet gets a little more to do because he has to play a big jerk. But Katie O'Brien, she's there. She's yelling out storm stuff. There are moments in this movie, by the way, that are very funny because you have the main characters sort of spouting out a lot of jargon, a lot of sort of the science about what they're doing, and these big canisters and what they're sending up into the storms to test or to try to dissipate these storms, and what exactly they're sending up there, what it is. And I have no idea if it's based in real science or not because they're saying a lot of complex words that sound good on screen, and you just have to kind of nod and go, okay, yeah, this science stuff. All right, sure. Why not? So yeah, it is interesting that they decided to make it so standalone, really go against the grain this day and age where legacy sequels are all the rage. And yes, sadly, Bill Paxton is no longer with us, and nor is Philip Seymour Hoffman, who had a fun supporting role in the original. But Helen Hunt still is, and there's a lot of great supporting actors in that original movie too. You got Alan Ruck and Jeremy Davies and all these people that were in that film. They didn't do the thing you might expect as far as like that connective tissue, and having someone there as a supporting role or a direct connection. It is notable. I wasn't mad about it. I actually think it's a little bit refreshing because as much as it's, an easy sort of nostalgic hit when something like that happens, it's also like, hey, they don't all have to do that. And the fact that there is that little technology connection is fine. It's enough that if they did a third movie and they wanted to bring in other people, they've laid that little groundwork that they can use that in the future. But it's fine if they don't. And I also should note the director of this movie is Lee Isaac Chung. What an interesting follow-up to Minari, the acclaimed Academy Award winning film that was almost all in Korean a couple years ago. This happens a lot where, a up-and-coming indie director gets snatched up by the studios. This is just one of the ones that seems the most funny as far as to go from Minari to Twisters. And I think he does a good job. I mean, he's directed a couple episodes of Star Wars. He's done The Mandalorian and an episode of Skeleton Crew that hasn't aired yet. So he's already started to work in that bigger realm and with effects. And I think he definitely handles himself well here. I don't think it has that amazing spectacle that sort of a person who's born to do this, like a Roland Emmerich. That man was born to destroy things on screen. I don't think that is necessarily Chung's, calling in life, but he knows how to give you likable characters. The movie looks really good, and the chemistry of the cast definitely brings you along through the story here. So yeah, on a hot summer day, Twisters, I think, is a fun movie to kind of just sit back and enjoy. It's not a must see. If you decided that this is one you can push to the side for now, or maybe catch one day. In the old days, this would definitely be a cable favorite. In the modern age, it will be a streaming favorite, I think, because yeah, it's easy to kind of half watch both Twister movies, I think. And when those spectacle scenes happen, then you can kind of tune in a little more. So those are my thoughts on Twisters. We'll see if they take another 28 years to make a third one, or we get one sooner. If you can like and subscribe if you have not, it would be wonderful. And I will be back with more reviews, guys. Take care. Thanks.